Welcome to Wholesale Hotline, where we cover everything to do with wholesale real estate. I'm Jamil Damji.
I'm Brent Daniels.
And I am Pace Morby.
And together we cover the most important parts of wholesale real estate.
Lead generation.
Conversion of sellers into contracts.
And dispositions. Guys, remember when you're watching this show, do us a favor and squad up in the comments.
Make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the YouTube channels and in the Facebook group Wholesale Hotline.
Most important, we want to know we're doing a great job for you and helping you build your business. So go give us a review on iTunes and or Spotify.
So squad up and enjoy the show.
The stage. Welcome to Wholesale Hotline number 205. My name is Brent Daniels.
I'm Jamil Damji.
I'm Joe Delafave.
Jen Delafave.
And we are excited. We're going to get into all things wholesale and we're going to get into some creative deals.
Amazing.
Are you wholesaling any creative deals? Talk to me.
I am not wholesaling creative deals. Okay. People in the community do. I think when you're wholesaling creative deals, there has to be a lot of intention and thought that needs to go into it, because first and foremost, when you go and lock up a deal creatively and you do a subject to, you've represented to the seller that you're going to be the individual that's going to be taking over this note, and they're making a decision to do the deal with you. They feel good about you. They like what you said. They like what you pitched. And then if you wholesale it, now you're bringing somebody else into the situation, which I don't have an inherent issue with, but I think that there needs to be disclosure, communication to the seller that, hey, look, this is who's going to be taking over the opportunity. They're wonderful. I vetted them. They are financially and fiscally able to handle this and do this. I'll be in the background. I'm not just like walking away and leaving you to, deal with this individual alone. And I think that if you handle the handoff correctly, and if you make the introduction between the seller and the new buyer, in my opinion, that's good ethics. That makes things make sense. And then everybody feels good because there's not this surprise all of a sudden, who's this guy, right? And so, and why aren't they making the mortgage payment? Because that can happen, right? In these creative deals, these people are really, really counting on you to come to the table and do the right thing and to actually perform on the promises that you've made. And so it's very important to vet the people. It's very important to introduce everybody. It's very important to make sure that you've got the right documents behind it in case the seller wants to take the property back. Make sure there's an executed deed in lieu of foreclosure that's in the possession of the seller. So if there's a default in any payment, they can just go take the property back and get that buyer off. I think if you do this the right way and you put the right pieces in place that secure the seller, I think it's a phenomenal way to do business. But you've got to be very proactive to make sure that stuff's in place.
And disclose and introduce them. Correct.
Yeah. Disclose, introduce them, make sure everybody's comfortable with each other, right? Because this person's taking over the payments. They're taking over this person's credit. And if this person is like, I've seen, right? There's a guy in town. I'm not going to, out him or anything, but there's a guy in town who was buying some sub-twos and he would not pay he wouldn't debt service. He wouldn't pay the thing. And he would wait until it became like a legal matter. And then he would go and pay. But in the meanwhile, this seller is getting notifications from their institution. The credit is getting hit. They're feeling completely let down. They're feeling upset about it. And they're calling the wholesaler that originally had been in the deal. And that wholesaler is like, I assigned it to someone else. I'm not even in the deal anymore. And now the seller is even more worried. So I've seen that happen. And I've seen the repercussions and how that plays out. Actually, Pace does a really good job of showing the people in the subto community how to ethically and properly wholesale a creative deal. I think it's just really important that those parameters are met.
Yeah, got it. What do you guys think?
I mean, I agree. Just like a cash deal where they're one and done, as long as your buyer has the cash, it's pretty easy. But when you're assigning a creative finance deal, there's just so many other moving parts. And like what Jamil said, you have to do the introduction. You need to make sure that everything is.
Do you buy great? Because you guys are actively building your portfolio.
Right.
You guys, this is like, you love creative finance. You've been doing it for, I don't know, 10 years now, more?
Close.
8 years,
now.
right?
Yeah.
And so are you buying other people's creative deals or subto deals, or are you just sourcing yourself and just keeping it with yourself?
I mean, we have so many incoming leads coming that we mostly just get our own.
Okay.
I mean, we have bought from other investors before.
Yeah.
And I think when we have other investors who bring us deals, they know that John and myself have a track record, a history of doing this for a very long time. So they feel comfortable to us being the buyers.
Yeah.
Maybe even that's why we get a little bit better of a deal on the assignment because of that fact. But it's just, there's so many intricate moving parts of that. You got to make sure that the success is in the details, and you got to make sure it's done right.
Yeah.
And a perfect example of that happened this summer. We were in the car and a seller reached out that we had assigned a deal to. And what happened was the mortgage company changed companies. So the seller got a notification. So we immediately got involved, reached right out to our buyer, and he was, oh my gosh, I had it set up. I had no idea. So we rectified the problem really quickly, but you're really, like you said, you're invested. You want to make sure you're taking care of everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the day, your reputation will always be super important, right? And I think a lot of people, they don't understand and realize that your reputation is still behind you. And it's as far as it is behind you, it moves in front of you. Yeah. And if you don't pay attention to the streak you leave behind you, and everybody that you've touched and been around hasn't been left better than you found them, then when you move forward in life and you move forward in business, that will come back to haunt you, or it will come back to celebrate you. You do the right thing and people will cheer for you. You do the wrong thing and people will, get you.
Well, Joe, I think you brought up a really awesome point, which is people trust that you guys know what you're doing. You have a track record for this type of thing. So when people are reaching out, you're brand new and you're selling deals to, you want to assign a deal to just get your cash flow up. How do they pick the right people to assign it to? You know what I mean? Yes. Like what kind of pre-qualifying or vetting out process can you give to people so that they understand that the best interests of the sellers are going to be, considered here?
Correct. And we were just going over that earlier today. And I think one of the most important things is you want to have references. If I'm assigning a creative deal, which we love to keep them, so I usually don't assign them.
Right.
Once in a while, we'll find one deal where it's like a really great deal, and maybe it's better suited for like an Airbnb. And if we don't do that, we'll find many people who want it. For one, I think the most important thing is you want to find somebody who has a track record, a history of owning real estate successfully. If you want to buy your very first deal as a creative finance deal from us, like that probably won't happen.
Yeah.
Unless you have many of other things, but chances are not. So you've got to have done deals before. We want to see HUD statements. I want to talk to a title company or attorney who you've done business with, who could vouch and say, yes, they do close. And I think those are the really two of my most important things that I look for. Obviously, do they have money, right? Because things don't always go as planned. And so you need to have some reserves backed up. So if you're spending your last $2 or whatever you have to do this deal, it doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy, because my biggest thing is I want to protect the seller.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the seller's entrusting us with the deal. When we make that deal, if I know for a fact it's a great deal, but we're going to assign it, we have that conversation with our seller before we even write the agreement.
Sure.
Letting them know that we love the deal. This is not where we buy, but I have investor friends who might be interested in this deal. I'm going to share it with them. And if I do find someone that loves it, I'm going to introduce you to. You have to approve of them and make sure that that connection's good. And then obviously we're going to do the best job that we can to vet them. Yeah, to just blindly turn it over to somebody without letting the seller know, big no-no. Red flags all over the place.
Right.
So you really need to be full communication and
Transparent.
But you think us as wholesalers we don't know, right? Sometimes we put together this deal and we're going to assign it out there. We're not going to keep it for ourselves. And we're like, okay, this person really wants this deal. You're saying make sure that you talk to somebody else, some other third party, like a title company or a lender or somebody that could vouch for them or at least see some of the deals that they have.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? Are they on title?
Yep.
On these deals, right? Can you pull them up? And we can pull up on whatever resource you use to pull lists. You can pull those those addresses up or the names up and see if they actually own properties. And I think that's really the way to do it.
Well, you want to make sure that, once again, they're not experimenting on this creative finance deal
With somebody's credit.
And
does anybody ever do that, Jamil?
I mean, come on now. Come on.
Yeah.
I have so many examples of folks that have done this the incorrect way, and then just how it blew. I did it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't talk about it a lot, but when I was in Canada, I was involved in a lot of creative deals. In fact, when the market tanked, I had 42. I had 42 subject twos that I had, some of which I had signed out, some of which I had kept, all of which wouldn't cash flow, and they all went underwater, and it blew up. It blew up in my face. It blew up in the sellers' faces. It blew up in those investors' faces. And I'll never forget how that felt.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the damage that was created. And I think that's a part of the reason why I've been so apprehensive to dip my toes into the world of creative again, was because of, I just saw the damage that could be done if people don't have the financial resources to pull themselves out of. Because every time you take over leverage, right, you think about it, and the market does what it does. But if there's something that dips and cash flow starts to get negative, and people don't have the financial capacity to actually pull that up or make the debt service or take care of the gap, that's a problem, right? And so it's just really important that, if you are going to dip your toe into that, and if you're going to get involved, have a war chest, have funds available in case things go wrong, in case you got a tenant that destroys everything and you got to go in and remodel the place, in case rents dip. Because look, at the end of the day, you guys have seen the depression in rents that have happened over the last few months. That's happened in short-term rentals. It's happened in midterm rentals. It's happened in long-term rentals. And so it's harder and harder these days to get something to cash flow. Now, not every investor is looking for cash flow. People like Pace love depreciation. He doesn't care so much that it cash flows. He wants it to break even, but he's buying it for the depreciation, right? Yeah. So depending on the level of sophistication of the investor, they're going to have different motives for buying. And I think when you're vetting them, that's something that you're looking at. Like, how financially stable is this person, so that if things do turn around, will they be able to take care of this situation? Because if they can't, I don't want to do the deal. And I actually really appreciate your guys' method and how, in earnest, you guys are so transparent with your sellers. That's how I think it needs to be done, right? Yeah. And here's the beautiful thing, because we've seen, Pace has taken over the world of creative finance in terms of its education and how things go. And he's done a phenomenal job. Mm-hmm. He's done a phenomenal job of helping and making sure that people understand the ethics behind it and what their responsibilities are. And I think that a lot of the shenanigans that happened because people were miseducated, and they were taught, you get this off your hands, you take your 10 and you move, and I think that's where the problem was, is I think the old guard didn't care enough. Yeah. And that's the issue.
Let me ask you guys this. So I want to get into your guys' history, but you guys, portfolio, cash flow, the whole thing, do some wholesale, but it's not your bread and butter. Us guys, we're like, we want to do wholesale. We want to go out there, get a bunch of deals, do a bunch, and then we'll just buy properties, cash at some point or something like that. So let's have a little back and forth on your strategy versus our strategy. Because I think our strategy is pretty dope. Build a business that runs pretty much without you, that has incredible cash flow, and you get to cherry pick the best deals when you want them. Versus go and build a portfolio, get the cash flow in like a subscription basis is really what, I don't remember who said that. Somebody said that like rent is a subscription, and I really like that thought.
Yeah, if you look, I mean, it makes sense, right? What's your average cash flow per property?
A little over 600.
Okay, so if you're cash flowing $600 a month, right, on each property, I mean, that's substantial. How many do you got?
24 right now.
All right. I mean, this guy's making money.
Yeah.
Right. And so that right there gives him a cushion. It allows him to have a war chest. And when things go wrong, he can just dip into all that cash and go out and do that. But it is a subscription, and it's a subscription that people can't cancel.
Right.
It's pretty beautiful, right? I'd say you guys have done a phenomenal job in doing that. But do you ever lose sleep at night with holding on all that debt?
No.
No.
I do. I wake up sometimes wondering what the heck, as any business owner does, right? But I think, honestly, subscription basis is interesting. We actually liken it to almost like a Ferris wheel. We actually love rent to own. So we hold our properties for as long as we can, but at some point our goal is to make a renter a homeowner.
So do you primarily do lease options then as a beautiful
Yes.
The actual strategy.
wraps with the lease option as opposed to a subto.
And it's so good because that keeps them involved. It keeps them in the deal. They're, you guys still have a lot of control in that lease term. You got to see their payment history. You get the option fee, which comes in right out the gate. And if they don't exercise the option, unfortunately, they lose that deposit, but you get to do that again.
So we don't.
You don't keep the deposit.
Well, we do. It's a non-refundable option deposit.
Yeah.
If they don't execute the option in the 2 years that we give them, we just renew the terms. So they're going to have a new lease price and a new payment for the property, or price for the property, but we don't kick them out. So we've got some of our renters who are in there for 6-7 years, moved in 2017, still paying rent every month, have a large non-refundable option deposit they gave us back then, which went to like marketing and other things like that too. So we're able to use that money. And since they didn't buy it out in 2 years, but they love the house, they want to own it, we just keep on renewing it at new market terms.
Yeah.
And so once in a while,
that.
you have a few that do buy, throughout the year. And the ones that don't buy, we never kick them out. We don't take their money. We just keep on renewing it. And it's like that set it and forget it infomercial from way back in the day. And that's really what it is, because, you get a chunk of cash when they move in. And if most of our deals that we buy with creative finance, we're buying them with $100 down plus some closing costs. Insurance policy, we usually set aside about 3 payments aside. So it takes us a couple months to find our right tenant buyer.
Yeah.
But
how are you finding your tenant buyer? What's your primary source of leads for that?
Well, we market it just like any other rental. So we really love Facebook, obviously joining groups. We built out back in 2017 a Facebook page, which has grown immensely. Once upon a time, it was my mom, and now there's like 10,000 people following it.
Wonderful.
So that's pretty cool.
It's like a rent to own page?
Yeah. 585 rent to own. Didn't quite know exactly what we were doing, but we started going live and sharing our
Is that like an area code?
That was our original.
We're originally from upstate New York, Rochester. So we started this there. And which was a challenge, is finding out any of the stuff that you could do in New York. Even how to buy creative finance in New York was a challenge. It's an attorney state.
Yeah, sure.
So we learned, and I can't say the hardest state, but it's a challenge in New York.
What's the hardest state?
I don't know.
We're just going to jump in on you guys, by the way.
Massachusetts
is tricky.
It's tricky. But, we learned in there.
Texas, I believe, is also a little bit sticky as well, right?
With lease options, it is.
You do an agreement for sale in that circumstance, or what's your strategy there?
You could sell it on a wrap.
Okay.
But in a lot of the other states, what we would do is we'd buy these houses with $100 down, pay some closing costs, some insurance policy. Most of them are really nice properties in nice neighborhoods. Then we get a large non-refundable option deposit. So in a lot of these situations,
condition of these properties?
They're always nice.
Like
always
turnkey.
nice.
Price point?
Turnkey.
This one's what? Becky with the good rate. We call her.
Becky with the good rate. We just did in Buffalo, New York. She had a 2.5% interest rate. We're buying with $100 down. That's a $360,000 house.
What's it really worth?
A little under 400, a little over 400.
Okay, so you got equity in it.
Yeah, and it's turnkey. It needs nothing.
Okay.
You only do turnkey then? You're not going in and do a carpet and paint and the whole thing?
We will if we need to.
Okay.
Or you could offer handyman special or work for equity if you wanted to.
Work for equity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hers was built in 2013. So it's a 10, 12, 11-year-old house.
So a lot of times what we found out was if we changed anything, then our tenant buyers would move in and then they would
change it anyway.
Undo whatever we just did. And so we thought, let's stop doing that.
Yeah.
You paint it and then they repaint it. You put carpet. They want to tear it out, put hardwood. You're like, what am I doing?
Have you done any really high-end houses in this format? Question being is, a lot of people that are, let's just say, for instance, you're Brent Daniels, right? You're rich AF. But you want to buy a property, but financing and qualifications and all that. He's self-employed. I don't know why I used you, but he's self-employed. And for whatever reason he doesn't want to go traditional financing, right? But that he's financially stable. He can show you bank statements. He's got all the funds. But he wants to buy this 10,000 square foot beautiful house that you could potentially get for a pretty good deal. I know of folks who do this pretty house lease option situation where they're getting option fees of like $100,000, $150,000, $200,000. And they just scaled that situation to higher end homes because they attract a higher end buyer who has more money for the option fee and will most likely continue to be able to take care of the property. Is that a strategy that you guys have ever looked at? Is that something that you guys have done?
Yeah. So every market's a little different. So ideally, yes, we do. To answer your question, we just did one in New York, completed it. We bought that in 2021, Nanda. $100 down, turnkey house, gorgeous neighborhood. We put our renter in there for rent.
Price point?
In upstate New York, we bought it for $290, and we rented that out for $400,000. Our renter gave us $28,000 to move in, I believe is what it was. We were cash flowing $1,200 a month on that property because we took it over a really good rate. And then when we got it cashed out, we got a really big back on check because they qualified for a mortgage in a few years. So in Rochester, where the average house is probably about $150,000, this was a $400,000 property. So there, yes, multi-million-dollar properties we haven't. Ideally, what I've always found for the sweet spot, the bread and butter, is those median house range and under. Because it feels like when housing market gets hot, those properties still go up in value. When housing market takes a little bit of a dip, those still stay kind of healthy compared to the high end stuff, which is just, I'd love to get we're in Florida. So to find a couple $1 million property is just like the house next door.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we will be getting into more of those. I know when you're going to find your renter, you're going to need a little bit extra time to find the right person who's got
smaller pool
to $200,000 to put down versus somebody who's got 30,000.
So what's your primary source of leads?
So we're going to drop some dimes today.
Let's hear it.
Well, we love Facebook. We talked about a little bit about the rent zone, and so literally translated that into
I'm talking the other side of the deal.
Talking to sellers, So we just flipped it.
So you guys are going out looking at pulling lists. Is there a specific list you guys?
No.
What are you doing?
We do Facebook sponsored ads.
Okay.
Tell
us more.
The neat thing about Facebook, we kind of discovered this about 4 years ago. We did direct mail. We've done door knocking, cold calling. We've done a lot of these, and they all work. Everything's great. But we found is when we do sponsored ads on Facebook, people are reaching out to us. We're now messaging them a couple of questions, kind of weeding some of it out, and then we get on the phones with the really great ones.
What's your cost per contract on a Facebook sponsored
It's a little
post?
under $2,000.
Little under $2,000. Okay, that's actually really good.
Yeah.
Do you have a company that does it for you, or are you optimizing your ads yourself?
We have a company that facilitates it for us, but we tell them the ads to run, where to run them, how to do it. We kind of just tweaked it so many times for the last few years. We've narrowed it down, but our average cost per lead is probably like $5-6. So you got to go through a lot of leads.
So you're sifting through a ton of people, because if it's $2,000, it's $5 a lead. What? How many people is that?
It's a lot.
400?
A lot.
What is that?
It's a lot. You're going to spend we could look at a few hundred leads before we'll actually make a deal.
Yeah.
So our system of how we kind of refined that was when somebody reaches out to us, they just message us.
Okay.
We message back and forth. During those questions, we're asking
400. You're talking to 400 people at $5 a lead to get a deal.
Yeah.
That's
Sometimes
great.
depending on where we market though, because like we market pretty heavy in Tampa and that number goes a little higher per lead.
Okay.
But then when you're in like Pennsylvania, it's like almost free.
Will you go nationwide, but just stay in like good school districts?
No, we used to do nationwide.
Okay.
That's a whole other animal. Because you could get leads for under $2.
Yeah.
But what happens with Facebook, they're going to put
You did a deal in Alaska.
North Pole, Alaska.
Well, technically, the seller came out of North Carolina.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Came out of our North Carolina marketing. And they said, if you want to buy my house, you should not buy the one in North Carolina, buy the one in North Pole, Alaska.
Right.
And when our acquisition manager reached out to us, we're laughing at it. We're like, ha, ha, ha. Was Santa No, it's actually a legit town with a military base and people and not just Santa.
It was not Christopher Kringle.
No. But that was a great deal. They said yes to terms. So we wrote it up as terms, or it worked well for a cash deal. And we ended up wholesaling it the opening weekend to a cash buyer. So, So a lot of times when we're doing a deal, it might be a great cash deal or a terms deal. So some of these deals that we're doing, we might do what we call the creative flip, where we buy it with, a wrap or something like that. And then we just maybe do a clean out and then just sell it right away. Sometimes there's some small repairs that we'll do. I'm not doing full renovations. We stopped doing that. Yeah. Just too much time.
Yeah.
Too much risk, too many things.
What do you spend in a month for marketing?
Probably about $3,500, $4,000-ish a month.
Total.
And you're
because that's 800 leads.
Yeah.
And you're putting out there, we'll give you, what is it? 100%.
Full price.
That's
full
it.
price for your house.
Price.
Yeah.
So that's a huge way. And then the big dime that I'm going to drop right now, guys, is if you want to generate off-market leads for free without having to spend any money, all we recommend is if I want to target, and I could do this right here today, if I want to target Phoenix, I would go to Phoenix, Arizona on Facebook under my own profile. I'd find out every type of Facebook group that's in Phoenix. It could be I love Phoenix, I'm moving to Phoenix, singles looking for singles in Phoenix, Phoenix garage
Hiking
sale
in
groups,
Phoenix.
hiking in Phoenix. I like whatever. And there's so many different interest groups. There's hundreds of thousands of Facebook groups.
Yeah.
So you join these groups. Then we go into making a post inside the group. And all our post says is, does anybody have a house for sale that's not market ready? I'm looking to buy one in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And you will put that into a Facebook
You
group.
don't even warm up the group with like, where can I get the best burger?
That's right. Yes, I do.
Where
You
is the
certainly
best? No,
could,
seriously, they were
actually.
telling me this on the phone, Jamil.
Yeah.
They'll warm up the group with like, hey, you know, where's
No,
this place
I
for
was
men?
just like, it was just like straight to dick pics, huh?
Well, hey, once in a while, that's what you get. But what we do, a lot of these,
You should warm the group up.
yeah. So I might write in there, what's the best place for a men's haircut, best
Right.
place for a burger. And in that group, if you get 190 comments telling you the best place to get a men's haircut, guess what's going to happen when you put in your real estate post? You're going to have the same type of reaction.
Engagement. Yeah, because they
Tons.
saw that your first post had a lot of, and it re-engages your group when you do it. So you do the warm up. You do the warm up, and you're like, hey, you know, where's the best place to hike? Where's the best burger?
Where should I get ice cream? Yeah.
So, and you usually use that post as something that's related to the group that you're in. So if you were like, you know, we like to hike, or you like, what's your favorite hiking shoe?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
Even if it's a garage sale group, you can still put what's the best place for a men's haircut in a garage sale group.
Right.
And there'll be people who are just answering your question, tons of them. So then after I put that post in there, the admins usually see that you're not a scammer or a bot or whatever they want to think.
Yeah.
And then a week later, you put in what we call that blue post, because when I type that wording in there, the key to it is you can make a different color background. You can make it like the poop emoji, the heart emoji, different colors. I make it like blue, pink, orange, whatever you want. Post that in there. And
what do you post?
does anybody have a house for sale that's not market ready? I'm looking to buy one in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Now, before you go crazy, if you do that a lot, Facebook will say, hey, you put that into 50 groups today, we're going to stop you, right? So you put it in about 5-6 groups a day. You change up the wording ever so slightly. So my wife and I are looking to buy one in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Like, you could kind of change it. One of our clients, it's no joke, she had 1,100 comments on one post.
Yeah.
Now, when you're trying to follow up with 1,100 leads, good luck. And it didn't cost a dime.
Yeah.
So if I want to target Phoenix, Arizona, Denver, Colorado, New York City, whatever place, because usually with PPC, it costs a lot depending on where you're marketing. I can market anywhere in the country for free without ever having to spend a dime. And I think if you could really eliminate having a high budget for, initiating leads, and you could generate all the leads you want for free, that's going to really open up the door to your success. Because a lot of times, and I know when we first got started, our coach was like, okay, now that you signed up for us, take out your checkbook, because now you got to spend some money on direct mail, and you're spending $4,000 or $5,000 on direct mail, which is great.
Sucks.
It works.
I'm sorry.
Everything works.
It's terrible.
This was old school.
Yeah.
You got to remember, this is like 2016, 17.
I think direct mail is okay in small markets.
Yeah.
Sniper attack.
Yeah, where
for
nobody
sure.
wants to live, for sure. Yeah.
Rochester, New York.
Rochester.
Yeah.
It worked well there. But however, once we kind of discovered this Facebook method and we could target markets and things like that, it's been wonderful.
Yeah.
And then you just, from there, you get response. People like DM you DM them. They're like, I have one. And then you DM them.
So this is the crazy thing. Some people will DM you directly. Some people will leave a comment on your post. And when they do, you have to DM all of them, messaging, sending you a message, right? Communicate with them on the post that they're knowing they're going to see your message.
Some will start like Facebook stalking you. So if you have like a Facebook business page, have that ready to go, an email, a phone number, because people will reach out all sorts of ways. So you have to be prepared for that too.
Yeah. And one of our posts, we had a lady reach out to us. This was last year, 2 years ago, 2022. And she writes right on the comment, 900,000 and it's yours. I'm like, well, that's a lot for a house, but let's take a little bit of a look, right? Well, it's a $1.8 million property on Marco Island, Florida, that's on the water. And you would think somebody trying to market a almost $2 million property, it's on Marco Island, Florida, you would think you'd be not wanting to just answer some Facebook ad. Well, there it was. And she did. And we did that deal. Really nice deal. So as much as you would think, does it work in the high end stuff or middle grade stuff or low? It works in all of it.
Everywhere,
I mean,
yeah.
you'd be shocked how many people reach out to us with a multi-million-dollar property, and they're like, "Oh, would you want to buy this one?" And it's like a $7 million property on the water in Florida. So it works in all markets.
Let's take a trip down memory lane. How long you guys been doing this?
I wholesaled my first house 24 years ago.
Oh, so you're OG in this. Okay. And this been your career since that time? Have you?
No.
No.
I was lucky enough to get Ron LeGrand's course.
Yep.
That my buddy bought a late night infomercial in
Yeah,
2000.
I love Ron.
Ron's great.
The best.
Yeah.
And
He's
so
still around, by the way.
I know.
Yeah.
So
but
we did.
He's more like this when you see him now. He's just like, hey.
I'll tell you.
He's a
I
little
always make him
older,
give me a
I saw him eat a whole platter of eggs at the family mastermind.
What do you mean a platter of eggs?
It was I'd never seen somebody eat more eggs.
How many eggs was it?
1,000? I
Like
don't know. It was a platter.
deviled eggs, scrambled eggs.
It was a mountain of eggs.
Really?
Oh my God. There was no legs left.
He ate just eggs? Was there hash browns?
I
Ketchup?
think it was just eggs.
He just eats eggs.
Yeah.
My man.
I didn't know
But
that.
He's
Yeah.
like a protein, I guess. Maybe he's on like a keto thing. I don't know.
Well, he's in his late 70s, and when he was at the family mastermind, he still had pages and pages of notes.
Oh,
so
man,
that's what's just great about him.
Yeah.
He's an original. I mean, and he's one of the guys I'd say that has, he owns thousands of properties. He's one of the most. He's tried, tested, and true. He's a friend of all of ours. We love the guy. But yeah. Anyhow, sorry. Continue.
So my buddy got his course on TV, and I asked him if I could borrow it because I was broke and I had bad credit and no money. And this whole course was about how to make money if you were broke and bad credit, no money. I was like, this is right up my alley. Can I borrow this?
Sweet spot.
Never opened it. He had it for over a year, never opened it. So I borrowed it. Legitly, like a month later, I had my first deal under contract.
Yeah.
And that's what made me fall in love with real estate. So I was hooked. So I had a job in a car dealership. I was in finance. 2008, fast forward, I didn't do a deal between 2000 and 2008. I was working, and I thought I was living the
Your
American
first deal
dream.
was what year?
2000.
Oh, he beat me. I was 2002.
Yeah.
I think you probably did a couple more since then. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm
But
just
that-
saying.
You made up for it.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
point, though. I met her, Jen, in 2008. She's a teacher, had her own house. I had a great job, my own house. And then here we are walking through Junkers. And that's when everything was taking off because the market was dropping. We were finding deals just on the MLS.
Okay, hold on a second. So you started buying creative deals on the market started to tank, or you
No.
waited a while?
No, these were just cash deals. These were junkers that we were finding. What I didn't know was called burr until a few years ago, but we were burring. I knew everybody at the banks. So I'd buy the properties right. We had contractors. We'd renovate them. I'd take extra money out of the deal. I'm like, oh, this is a great technique nobody's ever heard of before, right? So I thought I discovered it. Jen walked away from teaching. We started having two little ones who were in the back. And 2016, I'm at the bank refinancing out of one other burr. And they said, we're going to cut you off at 10 mortgages, small little town bank. So you need to figure something else out. So in 2016, I was kind of felt a little defeated. Went back home, told her what happened. We started going to YouTube. Here's Ron LeGrand talking about how to buy pretty houses.
Still here.
Still kicking, still doing it. And I'm like, wow, well, this sounds great. This is exactly what I want. So we actually hired Ron and one of his coaches to teach us how to do this. And then we fell in love with that strategy. Our first deal, which is a creative finance deal, we did it with $100 down, had a 0% mortgage on a turnkey house with a $500 payment. And I was like, yeah. I mean, the first agreement that we did.
Wait, $100 down, zero interest?
Yep.
So owner financing?
Yep.
Yeah.
And they just wanted $500 a month?
Yep.
Yeah.
For how long? What was the balloon?
We ended up cashing him out because our renter bought the house in like 3 years.
Nice. What was it? Was the balloon 3 years?
No, he gave it to us longer than that, but we just had it cashed out.
Yeah,
then.
sure.
So we had our renters that we put in place with our renter own program. So when we bought that house, I think it was about, I don't know, maybe $4,000
So
in closing costs.
you have an owner that has a property that's in perfect condition that wants $100 in their pocket and just $500 a month.
Well,
I had to fight him for that 100.
Yeah, I was going to say, he was very emotionally attached to this house. His grandfather had left him.
Okay.
And so his buddy moved in and was paying him $500 a month.
Mhm.
And he was still paying taxes, insurance, was going to have to take care of maintenance, all the things. And so that was the one deal we got from our mailer that we did that year. And he met us at the property and he, just thought we were so genuine. And he thought, these are the people I want to go with. I don't want to go the realtor route. I don't want people trampling through this house. It means so much to me. And so we did the deal with him.
And then what happened to the buddy?
He moved out.
Oh, he moved out. And
Yeah,
then
he's
you
putting-
guys put a new renter in there and
Yeah.
put it to market rent.
Yeah. And then what happened was when we met him, because to sign the agreement, I met him at McDonald's. So really nice, right?
Yeah.
It was close to where we both worked at the time. But when I had to give him the $100
I take all my
deposit,
first dates there. Don't.
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
It's like the place.
Yeah.
Stick to the dollar menu, right? No, but he didn't want anything. He just got him coffee. And then when it came to doing the agreement, it took all of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I was like, you have to take this $100 for the deposit. And he's like, I don't want it. I love you guys. I trust you. I don't want it. In my head, it's like, if you don't take the deposit, we don't have a
Contract.
We don't have a contract.
Right.
So I'm like freaking out. I'm like, no, you have to take this $100.
What if you just bought him a cheeseburger? Could that be consideration?
if I kept the receipt? I don't know.
Sure.
It's a great question. I did buy him coffee.
There you go.
I didn't even think about that. But I was freaking out. So I made him take the $100. I'm like, take your wife out to somewhere nice to eat for dinner. $100. I don't know what you're going to get, but at least, he took it. Okay. And that was the deal.
Guys, if you got any question for this lovely couple, please put them in the chat. We're super grateful to have you guys here. Amazing strategy. You're averaging around 2 deals a month, it sounds like. Yeah. Your monthly spend is incredibly low. You guys have built a beautiful portfolio of cash flowing properties, averaging roughly $600 a month. You've got 24, I believe you said. Yeah. Is that right? Mm-hmm. 24. These guys are the epitome of what it looks like to have a family business, a mom and pop real estate rental portfolio that they're going to be able to leave for their children and create generational wealth because of this, right? They're getting mortgage pay down. They're going to get appreciation. They're going to get some depreciation. Actually, I wanted to talk about depreciation real quick because you don't have that. It sounds like if you're doing lease options, are you taking advantage of accelerated depreciation?
Oh, yeah.
What about the recapture once you sell it?
That you have to make up for that.
Okay, so are you ever trying not to sell it for the recap because of the recapture, or are you okay to sell it and then pay the tax?
Well, I mean, we'll pay the tax. Ideally, what I want to do is find somebody who loves the house. They want to move in, and maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now, they decide to buy it, or anytime sooner. Great. But, obviously you will have to take care of that recapture. Okay. And how long of an option period will you give? So what we do is we give you the first 2 years, and then we renew it for 1 year increments every year after that, but we will change the terms. So for an example.
So no more deposit, but terms will change. Or do you take more deposit?
No more deposit.
Okay.
The terms will change. However, what we have with some of our renters, that anything they pay above the rent also goes to that non-refundable option deposit. So we have some families that are paying $600, $700, $800 a month over rent.
Because they didn't give you a deposit in the first place?
No, they did.
No, they did.
But they want to see that deposit grow over time as like a piggy bank to them.
Oh, because they're intending to buy the house.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've got this one couple in a condo in New York right now.
Yeah.
I think they pay, was it $750 over every month for like the last, I can't even tell you how many years.
Tell me about the demographic of your buyer. Give us an example of what this family looks like, or what are they trying to accomplish? What are their goals? What are their why? What are the emotional and A, the emotional reasons, and B, the financial reasons for them wanting to be your buyer? Because I'm sure they know they can't qualify, but home ownership means something to these people. So talk to that if you would.
There's so many different ones. I mean, the first one that popped in my head was a woman who had lost her husband. And so she was looking for a place to call home. She was a writer, so she wasn't going to be able to just go out and get a home loan. And so she needed some time, and she wrote a book, and we were in it as her, angels, I guess she called us, and, felt like her husband was with her, helping her. And so she just felt that if she could find the right home where she could produce her writing, and her family, her kids would be able to move in, and they did buy the house out. And so that was a different kind of case. But, in her case, she just needed some time, and she wanted to go travel the world and really leave it for her children. And so that was a really special house, I thought, too.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, I love that one. So it seems like a lot of folks, it's like 18% of the population could qualify for a mortgage, which means there's 82%.
Is that the stat?
Yeah.
18%.
Yeah.
Can qualify
for a mortgage.
That's it.
So, yeah. So when you're looking at the other 82%, those are our folks.
Right.
Now, not all the 82 have money.
So what are people just rent? Those are renters?
Renters, living with family,
multiple
things. Yeah. So what we find is people who want to move into their future home now, and pay rent until they're able to qualify later on. A lot of times they want to get their kids into a better school district.
Yeah.
They're, starting a family. Maybe a lot of them even have good credit, but they're self-employed. And, I mow lawns. In order to qualify for a mortgage, instead of doing 15 lawns a week, I could do 20. So for the next 2 years, they're really trying to pump out 20 lawns a week, whatever those things are, and able to get them qualified for a mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of families. And that's why we kind of love those bread and butter houses,
Mm-hmm.
because when the market kind of dips or goes up and down, maybe people are looking to downsize and they want that 1,500 square foot ranch.
Yep.
3-bedroom, 2-bathroom.
Low payment.
Super nice house,
Yep.
right? And then sometimes maybe they're just looking to start their first family and they have a newborn and they don't want to live with mom and dad anymore. And they don't need the 3,000 square foot house yet, but that 1,500 square foot ranch, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom is like the key. So those are my favorite deals. I love those like cute, small little ranches in nice school districts and nice neighborhoods that don't cost the moon. I do like the expensive properties too, but it seems like the
$100 down though. Why is it always $100 down? I think you've said $100 down like 15 times.
I love it.
40 minutes.
I love it.
That's your deal.
Yeah.
Just $100 down.
I mean,
is it mostly
mainly sub-twos or any owner finance?
both.
What's the mix?
I would say more folks own
More
mortgages.
Yeah.
So,
But you're doing a wrap on those.
We do a wraps. Yep. We'll
Right.
do a wrap. I'll buy it on a wrap. And then I put in a renter who's going to
Explain to somebody that has never heard a rap outside of Tupac or a chicken, like a chicken wrap. What is a wrap? Like, what does that mean?
Well, it's just as good as Tupac and chicken wraps. But what it is you're buying real estate with creative finance. It's another form of seller financing, just like anything else. But the only difference when you buy it with a wrap is the title company or the attorney is creating a new note.
Okay. So you've got a loan on a property. The owner has a loan on the property.
Right.
And then you come to them at McDonald's, and what do you bring with you?
My $100 in the agreement.
Okay, and the agreement is a note?
Nope. It's a purchase and sale agreement.
Okay.
And it just says that I'm going to buy the house. I'll give you the example, the Nunda Boulevard one. Seller wants $290 for his house. He owes $230.
Yes.
We wrote that up. I'm buying it for $290.
Mm-hmm.
I'm buying it with a wrap. So I'm buying it for $290,
mm-hmm.
and I'm taking over his payment of $1,700.
Okay.
He gave us a 30-year term.
Are you giving him the difference between 290 and 230?
Yeah, but he's waiting up to 30 years because I hear a lot of folks who they like to give the equity in a monthly installment payment to the seller.
Mm-hmm.
I never have.
You give him $100.
$100, and then I let them know that how soon do you want to get your $60,000 out of it, and I just let them know. Some sellers will give me 20 to 30 years to get them cashed out.
Right.
And some might want to get cashed out a little sooner, like 10 to 15 years. So what's the most amount of time you'd give me?
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how many times people say, I'll do 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
We've had people say 30. That's no problem. So I'll write that up for a 30-year term, like our one in Nunda.
And you don't give him a dime towards that until you get closer to the time?
Just the hundo. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. And so now what happens, we put in our renter. Our renters move in. They got this beautiful house. It's home. They're paying rent. They gave us a big chunk of money to move in. We're getting some cash flow. And then when
real quick, you skipped. Okay. You're at McDonald's.
I apologize.
You have a purchase and sale agreement and you have $100.
Yeah.
Is this a special purchase agreement? Is this a magical purchase agreement? Like, how do you outline, I'm going to pay your mortgage. I'm going to make sure it's going through a servicing company. I'm going to make sure that at this point in whatever the balloon payment is when you're going to get paid off. It's all in this magical purchase agreement.
So yes.
Okay.
I have one
Yes.
that we use, but when I first got started, I just used the standard one that we were given in New York.
Right.
Which is the Monroe
Like
County.
a realtor contract?
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
And you just put in
probably
additional
the addendum.
terms?
He just probably did an addendum with all those additional
There's
terms.
a
on it.
seller finance addendum
Yeah.
is what it was.
So you can just make this up as you go.
Just write it. You control the
Isn't
finance.
this
Well,
the best business of all time?
You know what's interesting?
That's what I'm saying. It's like if two adults agree on this and it goes through the title company, get wild to do,
Yeah. You would be surprised the deals that you can make when you get to do this part of it. So
Right.
I just write it up as here's the property, here's us, the buyer, the seller, the terms that we outlined.
Yep.
I wrote it on the seller of finance addendum.
Okay.
I write right on there, I'm buying with a wrap.
Right.
The exact term length, and then I send this off to the attorney. The attorney goes and cross all the T's, dots all the I's, forms the new note. So when we buy in a wrap, there's a note involved. And all that note is it's a promissory note. It's not me getting a new mortgage. And it just says that
You owe
trust.
this when you sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that we can
And
make
your
that
attorney
payment.
does all that.
Yeah, yeah.
So all you need to do is find a property owner that doesn't want this property anymore.
Mhm.
It's in good shape. They don't need the cash right now, but they don't want the responsibility.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when we just talked about earlier, Becky with the good rate,
Becky with the good rate.
I love her.
Shout
So,
out, Becky.
We were.
I don't know where you are,
She's in Buffalo, New York, freezing her tail off. It's cold up there right now.
but she's got a good rate.
She
Yeah.
do. Well, Becky reached out to us.
There's nothing sexier than a high credit score.
Oh
you know
my
what I
gosh.
mean?
Oh. So what happened?
You know
was-
she's got a high credit
Of
score. She's
course,
got a
you
good rate.
2% rate. Yeah.
Come on, Becky. I bet her name's Rebecca.
So
I bet her full name's Rebecca.
It
well,
is.
she went. Yeah, it is on. But by Facebook, when she reached out to us on Facebook, it's Becky. So
Yeah,
what
okay.
happened was we were filming our podcast live 2 weeks ago. As we were filming, my phone
What's your
rings.
podcast, by the way? I want everybody to listen to it. What's it called?
Creative Finance Playbook.
All right,
Yeah.
there you guys go.
So
Creative
we're-
Finance Playbook.
Thank you. So we were live and the phone rings. I'm like, hey, who wants to hear me do a seller call? Because I love doing seller calls.
Right.
So I answer it. I'm explaining to her we're going to buy it. Now Becky wants 360 for her property.
Mm-hmm.
She was getting lowball cash offers from these cash investors. I'm like, how dare them do that?
This
I
guy
can't
right here.
believe they're offering you how much. And she's like, they're all under 300,000.
Can I call you Rebecca?
Yeah. I was like, how dare them, right? Your house is worth so much more. It's beautiful. So she said, I really want 360. She owes 169.
Mm-hmm.
So she's got 190,000 of equity. Now on that deal, she said, yeah, $100 down, but we had a 5-year balloon on there, but her rate is 2.5%.
Mm-hmm.
Her payment all in is about a little over 1,900, and that rents for 26 to 2,800 all day long. So here we are going to be able to buy that property, pay a few thousand in closing costs, probably 5, 6, 7. Insurance policy, 1,500. Set aside 3 payments. So all in, we're going to maybe 15,000.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a renter who's got 20 to 30,000, or if not more, to move into that house, and we will find that for sure. It's a really nice house. It's in the section where, if you know Buffalo, it's where like the Buffalo Bills players live. So it's a nice area, and we're gonna make somebody a beautiful home. Now our price is going to start out at $399.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a huge markup. Some of these you get better than others, but we got $40,000 of what I call free equity. And with $100 down on a turnkey house.
I want to ask a question about the sale price, right? Because there has to be deals that you are selling overvalued. Thinking about when it's going to be time for them to actually refinance the house and actually take you out of the deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it may not appraise for that value at this current moment. Have you had a situation where a buyer was like, you know what, I came into some money, or I really want to take this deal, I want to go qualify right now, and then you have a situation where you don't appraise? Has that ever happened? And no?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so no one has ever tried to exercise the option too early.
We have, but
Yeah.
we've had some where if you have a large enough non-refundable option deposit, it could somehow make up for that. Really what I try to do is I try to price it appropriate. If you have 2 years to buy it, you're not getting today's price. But I made money. But the one deal that we made a mistake on was we locked in a renter.
How
for
are
a
you
5-year
determining
term.
what's that going to be? Are you going by just appreciation, 7% a year, 5% a year? How are you targeting what it's going to be worth in 5 years?
And that's a little bit of a trick. I'm just basing it on what I've seen in market depreciation. And then I might even go a little bit tad higher than that, because you could always go down if you need to, but you can't go back up. But it's got to appraise. So if I have a house that I think in 2 years from now will be worth 400,000 and it comes back at 425, this happens to us all the time. So that's why you don't want to sign up for too long of a term. That's generally what will happen. But if I write it up for a $400,000 and they decide in 3 weeks to buy it out and it's not appraising for that, then yeah, you're going to have to come down if you want to buy it.
Got it.
But
So then
what
you
I
just
do is-
make the adjustment to your sales price and get it done.
Yeah. But
Cool.
ideally what we do is when we're putting somebody in, we use a screening company and they give us an idea. These folks will be mortgage ready in 18 to 24 months or 12 to 18 months. So we know their chances are not going to be mortgage ready right now.
Are you helping them with rebuilding their credit?
We don't, but there's a company that facilitates that. So if they want to, the screening company also offers that too.
So in the time that they're paying you guys rent, they're building their credit.
Mhm.
How bad are some of the financial situations that people are coming into these? I'm sure there's bad credit, foreclosure,
Mhm.
divorce, bankruptcy, all kinds of shenanigans that happen in lives, and this is no reflection or judgment on the people. Life situations and circumstances happen to everybody, and every person is doing their best. But in that experience or in that situation, how do you mitigate that?
So we work with all credit types. But I was in the car business for 20 years in finance. So what I've seen many times is there's some people who have got bad credit where they're good people. They just had something bad happen to them.
Yeah.
A divorce, an illness, they're out of work for a while, things like that. Then you have the people who are career at never paying anything on time, worried about those. Right. So
how do you spot them?
So when our screening company, they send you back a report, and the screening company will say, "Oh, these
What's
people."
the screening company called?
Screenthetenant.com.
Okay, screen the tenant. Guys, we're just we're shaking the gold out of their pockets.
Yeah, we
just
are.
so you know.
Get it.
Yeah, we are.
Screenthetenant.com. Keep going.
So it's a company out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We've been using them for years. So they'll give you back about a 70-page report. And on that report, we just did one. And the report we got back, credit score was in the 400, so it was low. But I'm like, okay, well, why is it low? And I started diving into the credit history. And his most recent credit history was a car loan. Out of the last 24 months of having that car loan open, he's only made payments on time 5 times.
Wow.
So if he can't make a $400 payment on time, what's it going to be like when he gives us the 20 grand to move into this house? Because he's got 20 grand. My brain goes to thinking, if you've got 20 grand, why ain't your car payment on time?
Right.
People.
He prioritizes the wrong things.
Yeah. But then for every one of those situations we run into a family who's maybe they just made it through school, and while they're in college, their credit was all banged up, but now they got that nursing job and they're making great money and they're working at the hospital. And, all of those situations come upon us. So I really want to see is, do they have the ability to pay? Is your income good? Do you have a good income? If you're making $20,000 a year at, the gas station down the road, and you want to buy a $500,000 house and you got some money from grandma to put down on it, it's not going to work. Right. So we want to make sure they're able to afford the payments too.
I got some questions for you.
Did somebody really ask that question?
Yeah, that's a crazy question.
Boy.
Wait, well, I mean, she super chatted it, so we might as well just ask
super
it.
chatted.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. I'm 30 years old and make $220,000 a year. Would you guys advise me against investing in breast implants?
Investing is a good word, I guess.
Thank you, Susie. Yeah, don't get them. Next.
Super nifty Susie.
Wow.
I mean, I assume that's
she paid
not
$5 for an answer. I get,
I'm assuming that's not her real picture.
I don't,
because it seems like it's already too late.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the answers depend on your line of work.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good investment. Maybe it's not.
You know what? I think Susie's real name is Larry. See you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Just keep going.
I got some good questions here.
It's the internet, guys.
Really?
One here, just
I love this
for all of us. So, Jen, why don't you start out?
The confidence for the first deal. Well, you got to start with the belief that you can do it.
Mm.
And then from there, obviously getting around the people that are doing it, learning from them, and then just being okay with messing up and taking the messy, massive action. Because if you're not willing to just take those steps and fall a little bit, but have people that could help pick you back up, then you're never going to know. So you just have to know that we all start scared someplace. Back with rent-to-own buyers, I was terrified to get on the phone and talk to those people because I was so new at it, but I did it. And now here we are today.
But what's the obsession with getting it right? I mean, come on. At the end of the day, when you see what Brent's accomplished, Pace has accomplished, I've accomplished, these folks have accomplished. In the end of the day, you're seeing, the 10% of our wins.
Yeah.
That's what you're seeing is the 10% of our wins make up the life that we get to live, not the 90% of our failures, which happen all the time. We're continuously failing over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I think at the end of the day, this idea that you're going to have to be perfect or you're going to need to get it right or that it's, that you can't make errors and that errors aren't fun. Like, I think we got it backwards. Everybody's just so scared to make mistakes.
Where do you think confidence comes from?
I mean, I think
that's really the real question here, I think. Right?
Well, okay, in my opinion, right? And we'll let everybody else answer this. But I think confidence comes from having a couple of things in place. You got to know a little bit about what you're doing. Okay, you got just a little bit about what you're doing. I think that you need to have a clear understanding and vision of what you're wanting to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to have a bit of faith and belief in yourself that you can get to that place and not be so worried about the steps on getting there.
Mm-hmm.
But, faith should always be your anchor, and self-belief should be your gas.
Yeah.
And then knowledge just turns into your GPS.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I can get into my car and I can get to a place and not always have my GPS, but I know if I'm heading east, I can kind of figure out where I'm going from there. Right. We didn't all have GPSs in our lives. You and I came from, all of us,
MapQuest.
you as well. Well, yeah. And remember when we used to have to
Turn
like
by
actually
turn.
go to the gas station and get the big map and be like, okay, I'm over here. I'm trying to get over there. And then you're like, and then you do that. Right. That's how we roll.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is just the reality of it. And I think that's the problem is we're so spoiled now. And we get so many things right because we've got this genius in our pocket all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But if we could just give ourselves the grace to make mistakes and to enjoy them, man, I love effing up.
Yeah.
I do, because it just gives you so much opportunity to learn. We're going to be here, 85, 90 years maybe, right? You're going to make way more mistakes than you're going to have wins. So if you're only going to enjoy your life when you're having the wins, that means that the majority of your life, you're going to be pissed off and mad.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point of that?
There's 500 people on here that you can leverage their confidence, leverage other people's experience.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do it all yourself. That's the whole point of the show, is to squat up with people that are a few steps ahead of you. Yeah. You're going to be a little bit nervous when you're getting started, but if you have somebody there helping you, if you have somebody there giving you the right direction and the right agreements and the right support, you can leverage other people's confidence. But you gotta be able to initiate one, the relationship, but two, and if you really want that relationship to go deep, you actually have to do stuff. You have to be able to do stuff. Maybe it's just posting on Facebook. Maybe it's not just the way that I did, knocking on doors and making calls and just, going at it, right? Maybe it is like Hunter. Hunter made a bazillion Facebook posts over and over and over.
I mean,
right?
One of my business partners at Keegley, who's almost like he's invisible. He's become the CEO. And this is a gentleman who, when he first started in the business, was 17 years old, had a really, I would just call it like a higher voice, didn't sound super old. And so he hated talking on the phone. He wanted to communicate only by text message, still that way. But, I remember him and I were doing a lot of transactions, and it got to a point where the guy did 50 deals and he never spoke to a single human. He did it all over DM and text message and smashed it, right? Became a millionaire without ever having to talk to a single person. And so he looked at his personality. He looked at what the limits were of what he felt comfortable in. And then he just went ham in his comfort zone, but still took the action in the way
But
that
he
he was
squatted up with
doing.
you. He squatted up with Josiah.
Of course, he found the people around him that were going to be able to fill the gaps in areas, right? But he still did those deals without me or Josiah.
Yep.
At the end of the day, if he didn't have Josiah or I, he still created his opportunities by being able to just lean in on his strengths, right? Which I think is beautiful. If we can all just do that.
Awesome.
Mine is you also all of these things. Plus, you have to have some type of like determination. Not that I'm going to try this and see how it works, because if you're going to try anything just to see how it works, you usually don't do that well. But if I am like dead determined, like I might not know how to do this yet, but I'm going to, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be successful at doing this. And if you go into it in the very beginning with that attitude and mindset, and then you're willing to learn and then execute the things that you've learned from all the other people you're squatting around, it's only a matter of time before you are successful. And then looking back on it, like, I can't believe I did these things. Well, I think that's what builds more that strength, that inner strength that you're going to need to keep going. And that confidence is a series of small wins, and all these little wins that you consistently get will build you that confidence. And then after you do one deal, you repeat that, and then you do another deal. And before you know it, you're doing deals, you're confident, you're still learning. It's still a little scary at times, but when you're getting scared and you're getting out of your comfort zone, that's usually because you're growing, and that's a good thing. Let
me ask a question here, because I want to. We've heard a lot of the wins. We've heard, how things have been really, how you guys have like done a great job. And of course, we know that things can go wrong, right? And so paint us a picture of where you guys crashed the car, like where, a deal went south, things went hairy. Maybe you got sued, maybe you had to come out of pocket, whatever that is. Because I want people to understand, look, at the end of the day, it's you're going to get a lot of good things, and then you got to be prepared for the hard stuff. But you didn't die, and you guys are here, and you were able to overcome it. So the fact that we know that it has a happy ending is a good place to start. So what happened?
Where do we start?
I mean, we could spend the rest of the wholesale hotline on just that alone, right? From having one of our rent-to-own buyers burn the house, catch it on fire, right? Because they got a couple months behind and left the pan of bacon on the stove accidentally. There you go. So having the right insurance and all that stuff, we learned there. We did. So that was helpful there. Had somebody who was delivering a refrigerator to one of our properties trip and fall in the driveway, delivering a refrigerator. Jen and I don't know about this till a year and 9 months later when we get a knock on the door and somebody's like, "You're being served." I'm like, "What does that mean?"
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? I'm like, "What?
Served what?" They start dancing.
Oh, yeah. I was like, is this a dance off? Like, what's going on here? Come to find out, delivery company tripped and fell in the driveway, and the guy delivering the refrigerator had a history of that happening. Tripped and fell all the time on the job. But so, you learn. And so what I am always a really big fan of is surrounding yourself with the right people in the very beginning. And you learn the money that you'll spend or the time you're going to spend with them is learning from their mistakes. So those are the best mistakes to learn from, are other people's mistakes that you don't have to make. And I think that's why, when people say, I don't want to get coaching or anything like that, the best dollar I've ever spent was always on coaching and on her.
Are you guys coaches, by the way? Do you guys coach this? Okay, cool. How do people get a hold of you and inquire about that?
Well, we're on social media, creativefinanceplaybook.com. You can find all of our stuff, and definitely love to hop on a call.
Yeah, and I think that was always the thing, is that every time we worked with a coach, we've learned from their mistakes, their experiences, and that's what always launched us to that next plateau every time. So getting around the right people, I think, is key.
And I would think too, it's as you grow, like there's always problems, and you just have to become accustomed to them, and they do get bigger at times, or there seems to be more.
What was the scariest? I want your horror story. Michael Myers jumps out of the washing machine kind of story.
I mean, we've got photos from an eviction last year where there was some dolls, we can say.
The guy left him, or I'm sorry,
What kind of dolls?
Yeah, that kind of doll.
His girl broke up with him. And she moved down south, so
the girlfriend
he replaced her with a doll. And when he moved out of the house, he left his girlfriend behind.
The doll.
And the doll. And I will say the gentlemen who were cleaning out the property saw this thing laying on the ground.
Because this was kind of a nightmare. He locked the doors, so our contractor had to somehow jimmy his way in, break in, and then
you asked for it too.
I did.
And then he also called the company to turn off the heat upstate New York. So pipes burst or froze, whatever, water in the basement. And so it was just stuff everywhere. It was a mess.
I mean, we had squatters break into one of our properties that we had in Pennsylvania. And the good news was they cleaned up the house, left a little tiny Christmas tree in the bathroom and left. And
then in a house in Watertown, we hired some cleaners.
There's a good one.
People to clean out the house. And you usually get a dumpster, fill it with all the stuff. Well, these folks apparently didn't have a dumpster, so they brought a trailer and filled it with the seller left some of the things behind, and then they took it to a cemetery. So on a Sunday we got a phone call from our seller that the trooper had called her,
freaking out that she got a call from the state police saying that you left this gigantic pile of your garbage at the cemetery. And she says, "No, I didn't. I sold that house with all that stuff inside of it." I'm on the phone with the state troopers.
Oh my God.
People are at the house. So they say, "No, we cleaned it all out." I mean, that kind of stuff.
It's just now we
just
laugh
shenanigans.
at it.
Yeah.
We're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Racky said that.
I got it.
Oh yeah, he left her behind because she didn't have feelings for him.
Well,
wow.
We have the best audience ever. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love it.
I do have this question though, because as you're talking, me and the bulldog breeder are feeling the same thing. That's so hard to believe that people don't want their equity, that you can just give them $100 and they're like, pay me off years from now.
So here's what I learned in sales a very long time ago is you can never like predetermine what a seller is going to do.
Hallucinate.
Don't
Yeah.
put what you think they're going to do in somebody else's head. Because the reason why our sellers are willing to do this, and I could give you just Becky with the good rate, she's got $190,000 of equity. She does not want to list it on the market. She wants it sold right away. Why? Because she bought another house around the corner. And this house is costing her $2,000 a month, and she's living check to check. So her burning desire is to get the property sold for her price, which she accomplished both of those things, and to get the monthly debt relief off of her back.
Mm-hmm.
Those are her two main objectives. Now,
you took the house subject to, right?
With a wrap.
With a wrap. Okay,
Yep.
so how did, because I know it's possible, but how did you help her get her DTI down so that she could qualify for that next property? Or
She already owned it.
She already owned it.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's already living there.
What
so
are you
this is a
guys
vacant
doing
house.
for those people that do want to buy a house after you take over their mortgage? How do you help them lower their DTI?
So if they need to get a mortgage right away, hey, I'm going to be buying this house, or I'm going to sell you this house and I need to buy one right away, I'll buy it with a lease purchase is how we'll write it up. And then what happens is once they buy their next property and they close on it, then I'm going to execute my option to buy that with the seller financing that we already agreed on to. So I will write up, because the lease agreement, a mortgage broker could use that as income day one. And the neat thing about that is if you buy it with subject to or with a wrap mortgage, they're only allowed to use 75%. Well, on a lease, they're allowed to do the same. But if I'm trying to wipe out a $1,200 payment, I can set that lease agreement to $1,600 and wipe out 100% or whatever the number is exactly. And then knowing that my lease,
smart.
You increase the rent.
yeah.
So you
For
increase the
4
rent
months.
by 25% to help that situation get through it. Then you execute on it, and you're paying that amount. You're actually paying that amount. You're overpaying because you know that it's going to be helpful.
Well,
But it gets the deal done, and then at the end of that, you execute in 4 months. Now you take the property. Seller got a little bit of extra cash flow in the process, but their debt to income was completely. That house was completely wiped off of their debt.
And then when I buy it and execute my option to buy, I'm buying it back down to the $1,200 payment.
Right.
So I might have to float that few extra $100 for a
And you
couple
make
of
some
months.
kind of a stipulation in the documents to note that it's going back down to $1,200 once you execute.
Yeah, because my purchase and sale agreement, where I'm writing that up, will have the details.
Does the
of what-
mortgage company see that PSA, or do they only see the lease?
They only see the lease.
Got it. We're shaking them, guys. We're shaking them. You guys are taking notes here.
You guys have great questions.
You know,
Do
this
you guys
is,
have, do you guys have anything?
come on. Who's got a
Any
question?
from the live audience? Think about it. Here we go.
I got a question in regards to the earlier Facebook strategies. When you post, say, in a random hiking group.
When you post in a random hiking group, I'm just responding. I'm
Yeah.
just repeating what
So
you're
they
saying.
can hear you.
When you post, let me talk a little louder. When you post in a random hiking group, how long will you wait, or will you ever go back to that same group and ask the same question?
So when you post in a Facebook group, like a random hiking group, how long do you wait until you come back and post that same question again?
That's a great question. That depends on how great the group is or how bad it is, right? Because you might post, and I find these groups that have 100,000 people in them, 50,000 people in them. Don't post it in the groups that have 200 people in it. It's a waste of time. But if I post it in a group and I'm getting a lot of action in there, I'm definitely going to put that group in my special spot. I might write it down or put it somewhere. And then I'll try to hit that up every month, once a month. What I will do sometimes, if it's a really great group, I will go into the group settings and I will remove that post so that they don't see that here's Joe every month putting the same post in there,
Ninja
right?
move there.
So I'll go back in there like, oh yeah, this is my group. And I'll go in there, I'll take out the old post and I'll redo a new one. And then there you go.
You guys doing this nationwide?
No.
You tightened up, right?
Oh yeah. We did originally nationwide in the beginning, and we were getting bombarded by leads. We're trying to comp properties in the middle of Nebraska where there's nobody else around. I'm like, well, what are we doing? Like, let's get down to the core states that we like, probably about a dozen-ish.
Yeah.
And
What are they? Can you help us out?
Um,
What's your favorites?
Florida, because we live there, know it.
Pennsylvania, New York. I know the landlord laws are a pain, but comfortable there.
Yep. Carolinas both do well. Georgia does well. Massachusetts, now we're in it, so might as well start hitting that more. Texas is pretty decent. There's just the challenges with Facebook marketing. If you do Facebook sponsored ads and you're going to do the whole state of Texas, well, it's going to be putting you into the middle of like Corsicana,
Yeah, you're going to get
Texas,
some
where
Lubbock.
you don't even know if there's
Yeah.
anybody even there,
Yeah.
right? in
Lubbock's
Texas, I
huge
do.
compared to some of these.
I know,
yeah.
I just like saying Lubbock.
I do too.
Lubbock.
Lubbock.
But when I do the Facebook groups like we're talking about, if I want to hit Dallas, Texas, I'm going to join Dallas groups, Fort Worth groups, and I'm going to hit that area hard, and I don't pay any money. So
What performs better, your free marketing or your sponsored ads?
free because it doesn't cost any money.
Oh, yeah. And then
It just
too-
isn't getting you as many as you'd like.
You working with agents at all?
So we do, but we don't work with agents that bring us deals. We farm way too many that we could already handle as far as that goes. But
Yeah.
where we do work with agents, because we also do some of these flips. So sellers, when they're reaching out, it might be a wholesale deal. It might be a creative deal. We don't know. So we ask the questions, right? And some sellers say, no, I won't do seller financing. Well, then if we were to pay out cash and close when you want, what's the least you'll take? They give us that number. We go back and we look at where we're at a wholesale deal. And a lot of these wholesale deals, we'll either buy it and wholesale it for the cash, or we'll buy it, clean them up, and then we'll put them right on the MLS where we do work with an agent then. So when we're finding these deals, like we have a mobile home in South Carolina, never been in this part of the country. We've been through South Carolina, but not where this is. This is way out in the sticks. We just found an agent who had some recent sales of mobile homes in that area and reached out and said, hey, what do you think I could sell this for? Can you do a walkthrough? Can you bring a contractor with you? And he did. And he did the walkthrough. Says, Joe, I think you could sell this for in the high hundreds, maybe get close to 200,000. I told him what I'm buying it for compared to with the work. He's like, this is a deal all day long. Go do this. And we're doing it. We got one we just closed in Pensacola. We're doing the same thing on.
All from Facebook
Yeah.
sponsored posts.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Jen, what's the lifestyle like?
It's amazing, honestly. We used to live in cold New York, and then I said, let's go for a month down to Florida. Ended up staying 3. My whole plan was to move there, and we did. So the cool part, too, is that we started homeschooling our kids because of COVID. I was a teacher, and so kind of just in me to be able to teach our own kids, but now we're able to travel. I mean, to take a week, come here, explore Arizona, and just check out different places is really awesome.
Part of their homeschooling is lead follow-up.
Yep.
Jamil.
Oh, yeah. Our
That's
son
incredible.
Yeah. So
Incredible.
my-
Which of your children are real estate savvy? Can we put them on the spot? Hey, come here.
Ricky Bradley.
Bradley.
Come on up, guys.
He's like, I'm Robloxing right now, bro.
Come on out.
Come on up.
Nice to meet you guys.
Hey, give it up for him. Come around so you're on. There you go.
What's your guys' favorite part about what your parents do for work? Here, you can talk right into that microphone.
Well, they're.
What do you like to do?
I like to do follow up.
Uh-huh.
Oh, what do you say to people when you follow up?
Like, just say if there's someone that say hello, Mark ?
That's what you post?
Do you text them or do you call them?
Text.
You text them? Do you like that job?
Yes.
Do your parents give you money when you follow up and a deal happens?
Sort of. Yes.
Yeah.
Sort of.
You got to negotiate 5%. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say when I get a follow up, parents, I want 5% of the deal, and you can put it into your college fund.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty cool. How about you, sweetheart? What's your favorite part about what your parents do?
I like to do the follow up too.
Yeah.
And I like deleting people from the CRM when they say stop.
Deleting
Yeah.
people? You don't delete
Yeah.
people?
Yeah, the mean
What's the worst thing that somebody's ever said?
stop.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Give it
you, guys.
up.
Give it up for them.
How old are they?
They just turned 9 and 11.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What's really cool is that they're understanding rejection. They're understanding what it looks like and how much work it actually takes for things to happen. And you're engaging them in such a way that they're going to be able to get out into the world regardless of whether or not they do real estate. They're going to understand that life is a series of chances and risks, and you're not going to win them all. You're going to get rejected a lot. But at the end of the day, your path will find its way and you'll illuminate in a beautiful place if you just keep showing up. And teaching them at this age to do that is incredible. Like real estate is such a beautiful thing, but
Do you
the
run
freedom that you
numbers?
guys have is pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you run numbers with them? Like, is that math? Is that math class? Is like, let me show you how to do this wrap real quick.
So they're not at that point yet.
Okay.
That's coming.
However, we take them to the properties So
Right.
my daughter, I mean, this girl's been through so many different houses, and we always call it the one house. Every house has their own names. There was the bug house where she was 4.
Yeah.
We had a house that was rented. The renters move out. We went there, and it was a summer day. And she was looking at me as we were walking through the house. She's like, "Dad, I have bugs on my legs."
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, "Don't worry about that. You know, you're 4-year-old, right?" And then she's like, "No, but Dad, I do." I look. My daughter had about 100 fleas on going up one leg and 100 fleas going up the other. And I'm not exaggerating when I say 100. I look down at my legs, 100 coming up mine. I mean, it was like crawling to the point where, yes,
Fleas?
Fleas.
Don't they like?
Oh, yeah. We ran like the cartoon where you get up and you're just sitting and running, but you don't go anywhere. Then all of a sudden you're gone.
Yeah.
Like, we did that out of the house. No doubt. We were in the backyard of this property. It's in like the normal neighborhood, completely naked.
How is that not the horrifying story? You
There's
gave us
There's
the
so many.
there
There's
was
so
a
many.
rubber lady in a basement
There's so many.
type of story.
So-
That's way more horrifying.
Yeah. So that one was called the bug house. And after 4
I'm
months
trying to block that one out.
of exterminators, that house is no longer the bug house. But, you know, it took us that. So, I mean, they've been to so many houses. We just did a video I put on my YouTube just, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. The house was so bad. This is in Sarasota. Open to seller financing, $5,000 down, 0% mortgage, buying it right. We get out of the car. They won't even get out of the car. I walk up to the property. I could smell the house from the street.
Mhm.
You guys have all been in front of those.
Yep.
You don't even have to even walk in. You could smell it. I already know it's going to be needing one of everything. I walk around the yard and there's just piles of debris. And then all of a sudden I hear like this wrestling going on and I'm thinking it's going to be somebody who's homeless because there was homeless people living there. Well, it wasn't. It was wild chickens,
Oh yeah.
like just running around the yard. So, I mean, they've come to all of these things with us. So they see that it's not always just about getting a bunch of money. It's like, it's behind the scenes stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she did lock up a deal, and then the deal went backwards. So that
Yep.
was tough. For
What
her.
do you mean? How'd you lock it up?
Our most popular YouTube video is a video of myself and my daughter while we were in the kitchen. I was making dinner. I'm like cutting up an avocado, and she's messaging a seller about a seller finance deal in Texarkana, is where that deal was. And
Texarkana?
yeah, it's
I don't know what that word means.
It's a city that is between Texas, Oklahoma,
Do you know what it is? Oh, you do?
Louisiana.
Yeah.
But they had a house there they wanted to sell. And so I'm like, okay, message this. And she's writing them. And the guy's like, deal. Until we had somebody go do the walkthrough.
Yeah.
Found out that was another one of those houses that you could smell from the road. They didn't tell us that part. But they said yes. So just getting them involved with all the different things, I think, in the very
She's
early
still mad
stages.
about that.
She's so angry that deal did not go down.
Oh.
So angry. But so as far as follow-up goes, they both have YouTube channels and they love to get cool things for their YouTube channels. So when my son wants a new stuffed animal, he'll be like, Dad, there's this new stuffed animal I want for my YouTube channel. And it's like $12 I found on Amazon. So do you need any follow-up done? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, we do. He's like, all right. He gets my iPad. We put him right into our software, our CRM, and he just messages everybody their first name with a question mark to get them re-engaged.
Yep.
And when they do, our team takes over. So he just sits there and messages. It takes him like 3 days.
So this is a good question. Do you homeschool your kids or do you believe in traditional schooling?
We homeschool.
Right.
We just love the flexibility, and I kind of hodgepodge curriculums together, but there's some set it and forget it's, and there's lots of stuff online. There's so many different places you can bring the kids and communities in Florida, especially homeschooling. There's co-ops. There's a lot of opportunity out there. You just got to look for it and be ready to go against the grain.
Right.
Which
Right.
is a good thing.
What are you guys' thoughts on college?
If they want to
Long
use,
pause.
not to party, okay, not
Yeah.
for some, I want to learn basket weaving. Like if you want to go to college because I want to be a doctor and that's what it takes, then that's great. If not, like,
Yeah, it's either a professional designation where it's required to do that
Mhm.
in order to get that designation. Otherwise, no, we're not supporting a degree in sociology.
Yeah, well, I feel like I grew up in that era. Like, you had to go to college.
Yeah.
So I did want to become a teacher, and then I had to get my master's degree. And I met him, and like I'm like, trying to pay for my master's on a teaching salary and owning my own house. I was a little bit of a mess, really, if you looked at my finances, because I'm trying to do the right thing. And now I'm like, what I made in 1 year of teaching is one deal. And that's like
Right.
a small deal, right?
Mhm.
And so, where was that education back then? Because I feel like, I don't know, I could go on and on about that.
I'm going to send my kids to your house.
they'll have a good
great.
time.
Yeah.
They'll have a good time. But I had never went to college.
Yeah.
I was going to be a chiropractor, chickened out last minute, didn't want to touch people my whole life. Just kind of freaked me out. So I took that 1 year off to go find myself.
Yeah.
I found myself partying all the time. So, I never went to college, but what I've spent on learning how to do this business is way more than I would have probably spent in college.
Oh,
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit, because you guys educated yourselves and spent money doing that. What are your thoughts on that? Not just because we are all in that business, but just with respect to the experience that you're able to absorb from other people. Were there good coaches? Were there not so good coaches? How much did you guys spend, and what would be some red flags and indicators of how people should choose who they want to work with?
So we're still spending. So I don't know it's well over 6 figures. I will tell you what
I
we've
don't even
totally
know.
spent, but we've been doing this for a while now, learning from a lot of different coaches. So the one thing I've always been really big on is find a coach who is really aligned for what you want to do, right? If I want to do wholesaling, I find coaches who teach wholesaling, who are doing wholesaling, who are successful at not only doing it, but teaching others too. And if I'm looking to do commercial properties, trying to find a coach that's doing wholesaling is not going to be the best fit. So I try to find out what you want to do and then find out who are the best people who could teach you how to do that, and then pay them. So then you could take more of the elevator to the top floor rather than trying to take the steps and banging your head against it the entire way. You could get there, but it's just a lot more challenging.
And don't join all of them at once. I think sometimes people start joining too many things, and then you get the shiny object syndrome.
And you get overwhelmed.
Yeah. And at that point, just go back to YouTube and then figure out what is the one thing, and then really get good at that. Because I think that's part of our success is we went in on one thing, learned it really well. We'll continue to learn about it. But then,
what's the next thing you want to learn?
Oh my gosh. Probably, commercial, probably.
Yeah.
I think that's the next step too. I don't know much about it. And I think that I would love to.
With like retail, office, multifamily, what's your deal?
I like the idea of storage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people doing it.
I get nervous about.
AJ
retail.
Osborne?
No.
I'll make a connection for you guys. Wonderful guy. He's, I would say, probably in my opinion, with respect to self-storage, he's the self-storage person. I believe he does have a group that you guys can join, but like he's really good, honest. Yeah, so I'll connect you guys to him. If that's really your guys' passion or your next step, it's phenomenal. Yeah. Yep. Oh, there's a question.
If you mostly buy pretty houses, why do you ask for not market ready houses when you post to Facebook?
So
you're not getting past this question.
Hey, I love it. Because people will say, well, do you buy a house that's turnkey? What do you mean by not market ready? It's really just to initiate the conversation,
open,
and then it goes the DMs. So how many times, especially right now, 2 years ago, not as much, but especially right now, how many people are reaching out and saying, my house is listed with a realtor and it's not selling. Yep. It's turnkey. So when they see that we're buying properties are not market ready, they still reach out to us and say, well, would you buy my house? It's listed with an agent. We're like, yes, sending you a message and then going to the DMs.
Yeah. And we just listed our house when we moved to Florida, and oh my gosh, how much work it takes to get your house market ready is just insane. Fill a dumpster, change out all the things you haven't fixed in the 15 years you lived there.
Mm-hmm.
Donate a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. And so just kind of like that paints that picture, not market ready, So again, I don't have to have everything picture perfect for the realtors to come through.
Even if it's a great house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also if it is, not market ready, but potentially sellable, they haven't had a conversation yet with an agent as well. So you're kind of catching them pre decision making, or they're thinking about it, but they haven't started moving the ball down the road. So they haven't, asked a ton of opinions. And so that's actually hacking the timing aspect of it as well, I think. Yeah.
Well, and not only that, by this Facebook post, there's not as much competition because, if I pull a list and I do a direct mail or I cold call it, maybe there's other investors who probably pulled a similar list or the same list, right? And they probably maybe have already gotten calls. Where with our folks, there is no list of these people. So I can't tell you how many times I'm like, have you talked to an agent or another investor about your house? No, you're the first one. Mm-hmm. Could not believe how many times that happens.
It's like pay-per-click too.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah. No, but I love it because they're reaching back out to you, and it feels very, non-aggressive. You know what I mean? You're just like throwing it out there to see if anybody has, some properties they want to sell. You know,
and you get agents. Agents will come to you and, hey, what are you looking for? Well,
of course,
it happens all the time. So you're going to get agents.
It's probably a good strategy for what you got. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because now you're like, okay, well, I'm looking for not market ready houses.
Yeah.
Now the agents are like, well, I got a couple coming up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly
Agents could be a huge resource here, and they're in those groups. Bro.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. They're in those groups.
Oh yeah. You get a lot of them. Yeah. That's really the key. I mean, I love to say it's that tricky, but like it's your name. But the two real keys of this business is generate off market leads, talk to people.
Yeah.
That's it. If you could just do those two things and do it well, you will get deals. You don't have to blow the bank on spending
how about
20,000.
trying to look at deals that have been sitting on the market. They're turnkey, beautiful homes sitting on the market 60, 90, 120 days. Do you not see that there's a potential opportunity for you there? And if so, why not?
I believe there can be. We've done those deals. However, generally your cost of entry goes up when you're paying realtor.
Okay.
And so where I'm very
not $100 down,
Right.
Usually not on those deals. So when I am dealing with a realtor, your cost of entry goes higher because they're going to want to get paid, and I don't blame them, right? So there's that. They're also the gatekeeper. So if they like what you're saying, that could be great. However, if that's illegal, you can't buy a house when they have a mortgage on it, right?
All the craziness,
that becomes a challenge.
Have you had a note a due on sale call?
I've got one right now, and they're not really even calling it due. What I made a mistake 4 years ago. We bought a house. The lady was in the beginning stages of a loan modification, and they said, I was approved for it. I have to make 3 trial payments, but I can't afford this. She's like, I'm going to lose this house. This is a single mom. So I'm like, well, we could buy it 2 streets over from where I grew up. So we make the deal. I buy it. We make the 3 trial payments. Life is great. That was in 2020. Well, this last summer, the mortgage company reached out to her and said, well, we're going to re-record the new note that they created with her. And they noticed that she's not on the deed anymore. And I say, so what's going on with this? So I just called up the attorney and I explained to them, I bought it. You sold her, you financed a house to this poor lady she can't afford. I've been making the payments on time for the last 3.5 years. Mm-hmm. I kind of told them to nicely go kick rocks. I sent the paperwork to my attorney. He's having a conversation with their attorney. They say, well, we can foreclose on it. I'm like, but do you really want to foreclose on a house that this lady that you guys took advantage of? She feels that you took advantage of her. And now I've been making the payments on time. There are probably other assets that you have that maybe they're not being paid on time. Yeah. And that's it.
And so they're kind of leaving it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys have done a pretty substantial amount of transactions. It really hasn't come up. It's not something that has been like, an overt risk in your opinion.
So no, not at all. And I was actually dealing with
when you're only putting $100 down, I mean, what does it matter?
Right.
I mean, if you have an entry fee of $40,000-$60,000 on every house, then that's a different story. If you get a note called due, that's problematic because you've got so much cash out. But you guys are putting $100 out. Worst case scenario is you just give the house back if you don't want to buy it, if you don't want to qualify.
Yeah, or unwind the deal and buy it with a executory contract or contract for deed if you needed to. However, I recently learned a strategy that really has my attention. So we deed the property into a trust, land trust. What I was told by a title company in Florida, this lady, Denise, is amazing. Shout out, Denise. But what she said was when we deed the property, you deed it into a land trust. You have the seller as the beneficiary owner of the trust. So now the banks cannot call that loan due. And then you assign the beneficiary interest over to your LLC. So if the bank ever comes knocking and say, hey, we saw that you changed deed, we need to get a copy of that trust. And you show them the trust paperwork with the seller's name as the beneficiary of that trust. Mm-hmm. Your LLC is the trustee. Mm-hmm. But when you show that seller's name on there as the beneficiary of that trust, there's really not much they could do.
And then
you don't show them the assignment?
Definitely not.
Right.
Okay. I mean, it's all great. This is all, and it's perfectly legal. It's just like, this is just how real estate is traded. There's so many different strategies. There's so many ways to get in this and do this. It's you look. I've always been the Dave Ramsey style kind of investor, right? And to my chagrin, to be honest with you, because I'm a cash guy. I love owning everything outright. I own my rentals outright. I own my home outright. I'm just like that guy. I went through the crash in 2008 and I lost millions of dollars, and I've got PTSD from leverage, right? Yep. But when I hear stories like this, and I hear the results of many people in the subto community, and I see what Pace is doing in his portfolio, it shows me that there's an incredible opportunity to really, create some awesome cash flow for yourself, have some depreciation. I just my accountant told me my tax bill is going to be $935,000 this year. I want to throw up.
Giddy up.
Stupid, right? Why? Because I'm not buying enough real estate. Right? I'm making money, but I'm not buying enough real estate. And so I don't have enough stuff to depreciate. Right. And so, this is really, really running circles in my mind right now, because I'm thinking, if I had just bought 20 houses, or I just bought 30 houses, or, something on creative that I would have been able to have that depreciation, it could have been a great opportunity. But with that, you get the appreciation, you're getting the depreciation, you're getting the cash flow. You guys are inspiring, and we really appreciated you guys stopping by tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us come.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. And that's it.
Hey.
Wholesale Hotline number 205. We love you guys. We'll see you
later.
Or just say squat up.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
What are you doing?
I didn't say nothing.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Cool. I think we should use the one where Jamil doesn't say anything.